Hi everybody, it's Attorney McClendon here. You can also call me the family land lawyer. I'm here to talk to you about why a will is just not enough. And while that might not be the case for everybody, when we're talking about our farmers, a will is just not enough for farmers. So if you're a farmer, you might think, I want to make sure that my land gets to my children. I want to make sure I pass my farm to my children. So I need to get a will. Well, a will is something that you put in place to pass your assets to the next generation. You might say, I have 100 acres of land. I want each of my children to get 25 acres, and I want to put my second youngest brother over the estate as the executor. So that's fine and good if all you're doing is passing on land and you don't really have any preferences about how the family uses the land. But if you want to pass on a farm operation, you're going to need more than just a will, because you're not just passing on land or other real estate or other assets, I would say. When you have an estate plan, it's your money, it's your property, it's how that's going to be divided up after you pass away. It also deals with things like if you became incapacitated or you are disabled and you need someone to manage your money or make healthcare decisions for you. But when you are a farmer, you're not only making those types of decisions. I always like to say that the typical estate plan or typical will-based plan, or even like a revocable trust-based plan, which some people will use, and we'll define those in another video. But those typical estate plans are usually for people who don't have a business, which farmers do. But when you're a farmer, you also are a business person. And so you're passing on business assets. So you have everything that your business owns, those business assets such as land, equipment, buildings, your website even, contracts and leases that you have rights to. Those are assets for you when you're doing your planning. Intellectual property, products and goods, all of those things fall into the assets that your business owns, your farm business owns. And you also have the farm operation. So that's the processes, how you do things, your human capital, technology, software, your physical location. All of those things have to do with the operation of your farm. And it's really hard to pass those things on in a will. Finally, it's passing on that know-how. The who, the what, the when, the where, the how. How do we feed the cows? What kind of feed do you give them? What about if they're sick? What time do you feed them? What time do you milk them? All of that stuff is how to handle a farm, how to sow this type of grain versus another type of grain. And y'all know I'm not a farmer, so some of this stuff I'm just kind of, giving examples, very, very loose examples, because I'm not a farmer. But farmers, y'all know what I'm talking about. All that stuff y'all know that I don't know and that your neighbor may not know and even your kids may not know, that's the know-how of the farming operation. And so you have to make sure that when you're doing your succession planning that you're passing those things on. And so you may be wondering, like, where did all this come from? Well, I'll say for me, I had the opportunity a few years ago to work on a project where they said we need to help farmers to get wills. And so I thought that was a great thing, and I didn't know much about farming at all at that time. But I thought it was really good to make sure farmers had wills, because we want to make sure that people are still farming. We don't want a few more years to pass and then we look around wondering who's going to grow our food. So we got to make sure we have a plan in place, or have plans in place, to make sure there's a new generation of farmers. So we got into this project and realized, as I got into it, I realized that wills for farmers sounds good, but we're missing a whole lot with that. So all of that stuff that I just talked to you about, the operation, the business assets, the know-how, that also has to be included. And it's really hard to put all of that in a will. You can pass the land. If you have bank accounts in your personal name, you can pass those on through your will. But if you are actually running a farm operation that's providing income for your family, then you need to have what's called a farm succession plan. And so I talked to you about some of the components of the farm succession plan: passing on those assets, passing on the operation, passing on the know-how. But there's also other things that you need to think about when you are doing your farm succession plan. For example, everybody who's a farmer does not have a house full of kids who want to also be farmers. They may have had one or two kids who were interested in farming, but they might have three who went off to college to do other things. They might be accountants, doctors, lawyers, teachers. They might work in factories. They might work in construction, but they're doing things that are not farming. They don't have interest in participating in the farm. They don't have any plans to come back to the farm. But you want to make sure that you're treating all of your children in a way that is going to be fair. But we also have to remember that fair doesn't always mean equal. And so when you're doing your farm succession planning, excuse me, you have to balance those things. What's fair versus what's equal? And can I do both of those things, or do I need to kind of have like a scale to see this might feel more fair, but it's not necessarily equal? So that's one kind of consideration that farmers need to make when they're doing their farm succession planning. They also need to think about, what does everybody need? So the farmer who is passing their operation to the next generation might need some retirement money. I have a lot of clients who, for them, farming was something that they loved, but they didn't really feel like they could make a good living in it. So they had another job where they got benefits and all of the things they need to live on, that their family needed to live on, and then they have retirement benefits. However, there are other farmers for whom farming was their main business. Farming was their main source of income. It was the main thing that they used to provide for their families. And they may not have had retirement built in. A lot of times the money that they would have saved for retirement, they invested it right back into the farm business. So in that case, they're thinking, okay, I want to pass my farm to the next generation, but I don't really know how I'm going to continue to afford to live, or how is my spouse going to continue to live? Because we put all of our money back into the farm. So in that case, not only are you looking at passing the farm to the next generation, but you're looking at, how do we support the parents while they're getting older? How can they be able to survive financially, even if they're not able to contribute as much physical labor to the farm? So you have that going on. But you also have situations where you might have a child or two who decided that they were going to invest in a farm and work on the farm and make sure that it was viable, and they supported mama and daddy as they were working the farm. And you have their needs to provide for their families into the future versus the children who didn't work on the farm, who want to have a part of the farm as part of the farm succession planning. So they might say that children who didn't work on the farm might feel like we're just as entitled to receive from mommy and daddy as our brother or sister who stayed on the farm is. And so how do you balance those different needs? So you have what someone is needing for retirement. You have what someone is needing as they're working the farm. We don't want them working if they're not getting paid. And then you have the people who waiting in the wings to see what they're going to be able to get when the farm is transitioned. So all of those different things have to kind of be balanced and talked through. And as you talk through those things, there may be some sticking points that you have to work through. And so it might not be a straight line for you when you're doing your farm succession planning. You might have to kind of work through a few issues with your children, with your spouse, with whoever has an interest in this farm, to make sure that you get through those issues. And so I just want to just kind of bring up those few things. I'm not going to talk too much longer on this. I think I'll do a few videos in the future where I go more in depth and kind of talk through different scenarios so that you can kind of think what makes sense for your family. But I wanted to just make sure that farmers knew that having a will is great, but that's more so for your personal, the personal aspect of your estate planning. You also need that farm succession plan to make sure that you're passing on the business aspect of things. And you want those things to work together. So sometimes you might be very clear, I want all of my children to inherit a portion of this land. But what about the business, the farm operation that's associated with that land? Will all of the children take part in that? Or will you have it set up so that it's a separate entity that only those children who are interested in farming are participating in that? And you can come up with some agreements between the land and the business operation to make sure that who needs to be involved in what, that they actually are, and that those who don't need to be involved, that they're not involved. I also want to point out for our farmers that working with an attorney is essential when you are doing your farm succession planning, but you also are going to have other people involved in your planning. So you might need your CPA, you might need a financial planner, you might need a farm advisor, someone who can advise you on the business side of farming. And not necessarily that you need that, because I know as farmers, you have your own way of doing things. You know how to get things done for your farm, but maybe someone with a different perspective who can help you to see how you can expand your operation in order to accommodate more people. So I just want to put those things out there. Again, like I said, we'll talk about more of that as we go through life, because I plan on doing these videos for a long time. But as I continue to do videos, I'll talk more about some of these topics. But I just want to put it on your radar so that you know these are some of the things I need to think about. And as you are thinking through things, if you could use my law firm's assistance, we are licensed. I'm licensed in Georgia, so we currently only operate in Georgia when it comes to the legal services side of things. However, we are available to provide consulting for farmers and heirs property owners who want to talk through strategies that they can use to do some planning for their farm or their land, even if you are not in the state of Georgia. So I just wanted to put that out there as well, that we do offer consulting for people who are not in Georgia. But I encourage you to go ahead and get started. You may not be ready to hire anybody just yet, but you want to have these conversations with your family. Go ahead and start having these conversations. You may want to be strategic about when you have them. Thanksgiving dinner may or may not be the best time. You know your family better than I do, and you know what's going to cause Thanksgiving dinner to be unbearable. So if it's not the right time for your family, don't do it then. But you do want to start having these conversations. Find out from family members who are involved in a farm, what do you see as the future of this? What kind of expectations do you have as far as who's going to take part in this operation after I'm gone? Talk to the children who are not involved in the farming and see what is it that they would like to see with the farm. Do they want to see it continue as a farm? Do they want to have any part of it as they get older? Find out from them where they are, because you just never know. A lot of times people make assumptions, but when they actually talk to those involved, they realize that there's a lot that they maybe were not fully 100% on. So I encourage you to start having those conversations now. Do research, see what you can find in terms of resources to help you to think through some of these scenarios. And we'll be talking more. I'm so excited because I have recently completed a training to become a certified farm succession coordinator. So I will be able to bring some of the things I learned there into the practice that I have, my law practice, but then also into the consulting, and just allowing my firm to be more of a resource for farmers and family landowners. So we're working on some of those things, and as I learn, I will always share with you all, because I want to make sure that this information is getting out there, because it's so critical. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed it and learned something. Make sure that you subscribe, like this video, share it with a friend, leave a comment. I would love to hear what you thought. And if you have any questions or anything else that you want to cover, let me know and I'll make sure to cover it in one of my upcoming videos. Again, this is Veronica McClendon, the family land lawyer, owner of McClendon Law and Consulting, the family land law firm. Take care.